Hi there, Max Wright here, and I've got a great guest today. You can see him. I'm going to introduce him in just a moment. But I've called up a whole bunch of my friends because I said, look, guys, that we really need to get this information out now. We've got to push hard because there's a lot of things going on right now, and you want to have your financial house in order. So all of this week, we're going to be speaking with some of the legends of the industry. We're going to be touching base with Ed Griffin, author from The Creature from Jekyll Island. We've got the Dollar Vigilante, Jeff Berwick. We've got Doug Casey, the original international man. So all these things going on. We've got Dave Morgan from the Morgan Report. So we've got a lot of really cool videos coming your way, and you really want to pay attention and subscribe to this channel or to the email list and make sure you get your heads up on those. Just before I introduce our guest, I do just want to mention, just over here, you'll see a box where you can select a time and a date. So over the next few days, I'm going to be doing my live online training. It's called The Great Wealth Transfer. It goes for about 2 hours. There's an hour and 45 minutes of just pure content, me teaching you everything that's going on in the world, exactly how a financial collapse is likely to take place, and all of the things that you can do to protect yourself and position yourself financially so that not only you protect yourself, but you create an enormous amount of wealth. So while we're talking on this video, go ahead and fill out that form, select a date and a time that works for you. And if you're on YouTube, then the link is in the description for you to do that. But with that, we have Kriss Peterson from self-reliance.com with us. Kriss, how are you, buddy? I almost forgot your website there.
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Max.
Awesome, mate. It's really good to chat to you here. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the world and why the urgency is upon us. Off camera, you shared a little bit of information with me about Putin. Let's start there. What's going on in terms of the shifts of the gold buyers of the world and what's taking place?
Well, a lot of your readers and listeners probably know that over the last 5 to 6 years, China has really been the major player in the gold markets worldwide. That has actually shifted just in the last few months, and Russia, the Russian government actually, is now the #1 buyer on the gold markets. And to me, this signals really a very major shift. You know, Vladimir Putin is a lot of things, but stupid is not one of them. And if he has been pouring the money at his disposal into precious metals, that says a lot about the future of probably inflation, about currencies worldwide, and really about his own country's prospects, that he needs to stock up on gold. So to me, that was a buy signal more than anything I've seen over the last probably 20 years.
Right. Now, we know China's having some economic troubles at the moment. Is this because China has pulled back in its gold purchases, or are they still strong and Russia and Putin have just overtaken them?
It's a combination of both, I believe, but I think it's primarily because Russia has raised its buying levels.
Okay, awesome. Now, we find ourselves in an election year, and I know you had some thoughts about the significance of the election in terms of the gold and silver market, and more broadly, the health of the world economy. Why don't you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we talked about. I talked to my readers a lot about politics, and everybody's divided about Clinton and Trump and the election coming up. To me, it's almost immaterial who gets elected. Either way, we are due for a major collapse. And both of these candidates, it's underreported for Trump, I believe, that a lot of people are talking about it with Clinton, about how much she's going to spend. She's definitely the tax and spend candidate. But Trump also talks a lot about how much he's going to spend, walls and the trade barriers that he's going to institute. You can argue all day long about whether you agree with those policies or not. All of those things are going to raise the deficit. And so we're basically undermining an already fragile economy with two people who are going to spend a lot of money. So, again, I'm not advocating either candidate, but I think whoever gets elected is going to have a massive crisis on their hands. And I don't know who's better to handle it, but I do know that the dollar is certainly going to be weaker. The stock market is probably it's due for a crash either way. One candidate will probably crush it more than another, but we are due for a massive correction and a massive collapse, as you say. And so what I'm advising all of my readers to do is to invest in hard assets, prepare for the worst, and I think your program is really one of the best out there at doing that as well.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll throw my head in the ring there about the election. Uh,
Hmm.
Personally, yeah, I think there is no. I think it's a mathematical certainty. There is nothing that either candidate can do. They are going to inherit
Absolutely.
an economy that is on the brink of collapse. I totally agree with you there. I do think, personally, I think that the economy will heal much faster under a Trump presidency than a Clinton presidency. I think,
That's probably true.
yeah, I think I'd even go so far as to say that, under a Clinton presidency, you will just see more centralized planning. And the U.S. will go the way of Greece and Venezuela, and soon to be
Yeah.
Japan. They, yeah, they'll just double down on their central planning. Government will get much bigger, and that's going to spell a decade plus a disaster for America. Whereas it's hard to know for sure. There's a lot of wild cards about Trump. But I think we'll find under Trump that he will make things a lot more leaner and efficient, and will at the end of the day kind of correct a lot of those imbalances. Certainly more so than the Keynesian-inspired Clinton campaign. So that's my
Yeah.
thoughts there.
I think you're right.
Yeah, coming around to something else that you said there. Definitely, hard assets are the way to go, and the demise of the dollar is, in my opinion, mathematically happening. What else can people do, or what are the things that people should be doing right now in order to protect themselves?
I think that, first of all, having a plan in place. So at self-rely.com, excuse me, Max, we are all about self-reliance. And so we really encourage our readers to have a plan in place for, really, you have to be prepared for a lot of different things. It's a wide scope. And so it means you have to have your food plan in order, possibly an escape plan in order, an emergency plan in order. But really, what most people are struggling with is a financial plan. And so I think, as you say, hard assets, you need to have precious metal assets that you can actually spend. And this is something that we talk a lot about at FranklinSociety.com, my other website. How there are precious coins that have precious metal content that you can actually spend. Having a lot of people envision this storage of gold bars. That's not really practical, as you know. I know you are a collector and a hoarder, for lack of a better word, of precious metals. It doesn't really involve a big pile of gold bars. You've got to have things that you can actually use, and so I look at a more practical aspect. Do you have some smaller denominations of precious metals that you can use, be it coins, ingots, that kind of thing? So that's something we talk a lot about with our readers, and I know that you teach it as well.
Yeah, that practical aspect is very, very important. And so, yeah, silver coins and smaller gold coins. I mean, I think what gold coins are, those Fort Knox bars of gold, they're running at about $200,000-$300,000 each.
Yeah.
Not particularly practical
No.
in any kind of a disaster scenario. So yeah, no, definitely advocate some of the smaller denomination stuff. That also helps. And I like the fact that at Self-Rely, you guys have that, it's that broad approach. So you're not just talking about the finances. You're talking about other things as well. Health, and if you need any medicines, have some of that on storage, and have some of the food on storage. Protection as well. If you live in America, you're fortunate enough to be able to protect yourself with firearms. Definitely suggest you get your skills up on that and make sure you have what's required for that. And that, even more broadly speaking, is always improve your skill set. How can you add more value to the world? Because the people who can add value to the world, they're going to be fine. The people who can't add value to the world and just kind of drift along and do what they can, take what they can, and take the government handouts and whatever else, they're going to be in a lot of trouble because those funds are just not going to be there. The government will be broke. You might receive the dollar value, but you will not have the purchasing power. And so always improving your value and your ability to contribute to the world. How can you help your neighbor? If you have a good answer to that question, then you're going to have skills that you can trade under any circumstances. So this is all very doomsday-ish, and we're not sure if it's going to get there. But the good thing is it doesn't cost anything to put these things in place and to have that insurance plan. I love that you have that full gamut of things. I kind of specialize on the financial side of things, and so definitely, I think that you mentioned an escape plan. Having a financial escape plan is also significant because I think your chances of being able to get any significant amount of wealth across borders at a later date is going to be significantly low, or at the very least come at very, very high costs, possibly from taxes or possibly from other sources. But it's actually almost free to store gold overseas now, as opposed to the cost of storing it maybe in your own country. So it's very, very inexpensive to do and a very, very wise thing to do. So I talk about all of those kinds of things in my live training, the Great Wealth Transfer online training. Once again, just over here, go ahead and choose a date. Now, the first 200 people who go ahead and secure their spot, they're going to be absolutely free. It's $197 normally for this training. But it's just so important to get this information out because we don't have much time. I think probably at the latest, or probably next year, early next year, I think is a really ripe time for them to, and I believe they're in a lot more control of this than what they let on, but they can let it collapse whenever they want. They can't stop it from collapsing, but the powers that be I'm talking about now, they have the ability to delay it. They've done an excellent job for several years now. They've kicked the can down the road. That is coming to an end. I want to mention something else. So on this webinar, the Great Wealth Transfer webinar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the entire history of how we came to find ourselves at this exact moment in time. And with that understanding, we're going to be able to see into the future with a fair amount of clarity. With that clarity, you're going to know, because the financial reset may happen in several different ways, and we're going to give you all of those options. You'll know all the different ways they can go down, and there are certain ways which you can protect yourself, which will allow you to survive the most number of ways and even prosper during the most number of ways. That way you'll be able to help yourself, your family, and your community, because remember, you can't help your family or your community if you're in the breadlines with them. It's most important that you protect yourself first. Once you've protected yourself, once you have your financial house in order, then you can begin to help others, and we certainly hope you do exactly that. So go ahead and register for that webinar. I'm also going to give away on that webinar, well actually just as soon as you register for it, I'm going to go ahead and give you what I call my gold and silver cheat sheet. And what it is, it's a list of brokers and storage houses around the world that I use, I've investigated, I trust them, and I recommend them because there are a lot of sharks out there, and you don't want to have your gold and silver stashed in a certain way or in certain jurisdictions and in certain forms that are not going to be helpful for you in a crisis. So that's my financial gold and silver cheat sheet, and I'll give that to you for free when you register on that. And also, Kriss, because he's so passionate about getting this information out, and I really commend you, thank you for this, Kriss, but there's two products which he sells on his websites. One is called Off-Grid Gold. That's a report on how to store your gold and silver, very similar to what I'm talking about, off the grid, so that it's not recorded anywhere, and it's a way that no matter what, you'll be able to have access to it. No one else will know about it unless you choose to tell them about it, which is a very, very smart thing, because we've learned throughout history, 1933, the order was put out that Americans had to sell their gold back to the government at a preset rate. So these kinds of things do take place during crises. It hasn't happened for a long time, but it might happen in the future. And when you know this, you can plan for that. So Kriss is offering Off-Grid Gold. He's also got another product called How to Avoid an IRS Audit, which, if you get audited, you lose. It doesn't matter if you've dotted every I and crossed every T. The act of getting audited means you have lost. And so he's got a great book out there. And Kriss is giving those two things away for free. I'm going to share with you on the webinar, the Great Wealth Transfer webinar, how to get those two ebooks for free. So Kriss, thank you very much for sharing those and allowing me to give them away there. So go ahead and register for that. Kriss, are there any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners about why they need to act right now?
I thought you brought up a great point about how what it'll take to survive and thrive in a collapse. And for me, people like you, Max, are the ones who are going to survive and thrive. And the trait that I see repeated over and over again for the people that I know are going to survive and thrive in these calamities are people who are willing to learn and to take on a challenge. Not everything that you talk about is easy or something you can do in 5 minutes. And it's the same with all of the things that I teach. It takes a little bit of effort, but But the people who are willing to do that, the people who are willing to invest in knowledge, the people who are willing to invest in themselves are the ones who are going to survive and thrive. And so I really encourage people to consume as much of this information as they can. The knowledge is power right now. And so I've taken your courses, and I will take everything that you put out because I like it so much. And I just want to encourage all of my listeners who are on right now and anybody who's listening to invest in this program. Just the webinar for now. Just invest the time for now, and you will come away a much smarter person.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And that is to the broader point. I really want to stress that the emphasis is on education. There is nothing more important than educating yourself. The value of that education pays for itself over and over and over again. If you go all the way back to the beginning, just think about what it cost you to learn to read. Those months or years or however long it took you. And how much has that paid itself back over time? Education is the gift that keeps on giving over and over and over again. Sadly, because of central planning and our bureaucracies and whatever else, the quality of education at universities even and schools is really, really poor at the moment. And it's very, very sad. And a lot of people are left lacking. And so if you can improve your financial education, that's going to be one of the most important things that you can do for the prosperity of yourself and your family. And that's one of the main driving missions that we have here at Success Council. So that's what I'm going to try to share and impart upon you on that webinar, The Great Wealth Transfer. So go ahead, select your time and date, and secure your spot for free right now. I look forward to seeing you on the webinar. Kriss, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Max.